All right. So, welcome back to the Unlock the Sugar Shackles podcast. I am here with Dr. Raymond Nichols. Dr. Ray, welcome to the show.
Welcome. Well, thank you very much for having me. Thank you for reaching out. Super excited to dive into a conversation today, wherever it may go. Hope that it is beneficial to your listeners.
Yeah. And I wanted to get you on because I really think that one of the messages that I heard from you on your Instagram account, which was recently deleted, we can talk about that too. But I love the idea that you talk about your health being your responsibility, because I totally agree with this notion. And so why don't you talk to us a little bit about why that is and why that's so important?
Yeah. So I think I want to kind of give some background, because I think this is why it's so passionate to me. So I'm originally from Mississippi, and Mississippi is one of the most obese states in America, which means that we have really high diabetes rates, cancer, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, like all the metabolic chronic diseases. Like we have it, like it's up there. And so my family, I was able to witness that in my family, and then, and also obviously now in current is, and I felt that it was a lack of responsibility. A lot of it had to be with a lack of responsibility. Some probably from a lack of knowledge as well. But I think that responsibility piece holds so true in our health, because like we get these bodies, these amazing, intelligent bodies. And the thing is, I ask my patients all the time, like, hey, if you were to get one vehicle, if I say you can have one vehicle for your entire life, like, would you take care of that vehicle? And the answer is always easy. It's like, yes, of course I'll take care of my car, because it's the only one I'm gonna get. I can't trade it in. I can't get another one. I'm like, good, because you have one vehicle and it's your body, right? We only get this one body. So I think that's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about it. I've seen what disease, dis-ease, suffering, pain, like I've seen what that does to families, to grandmothers, to mothers, to fathers. So I've seen that side of it, and I wanted to go a totally different route. So I like to call it like just disrupting the cycle, because my family has been in this cycle of this dis-ease, dysfunction, and there has to be someone to come to disrupt the cycle. And I'm here to help people disrupt their cycle, because that's all it is. It's like, how can we disrupt this cycle and head in a different direction for our health and for our families, and so that our future, our kids, they can actually have a new normal per se, right? They have a new normal to start off of. And so when we take responsibility for our health, like it changes the game. Like everything that we look at, everything we put in our mouths, like it changes every single thing, because you know that this is your one vehicle that you must take care of. And as you ask the question, like, is this beneficial to my vehicle, or is it not? Right. And I like to keep things very, very simple. Because we don't need to overcomplicate this. It's right. Like, it's just understand that your body is meant to heal itself, and that you are the healer. You are the best healer, the best doctor. You just need to really sit in the driver's seat and know that, and really own that. And I think when we fully own that, then now we stop putting the responsibility on doctors or health facilitators, whatever that may be, our parents, our insurance companies, whatever, whoever we put our health responsibility on, like we take that away, and we actually, in a way, we take back power. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like we give power away when we think that someone else is going to fix us or correct us. But when we know that we can correct ourselves and like heal ourselves, like, to me, that's very, very empowering. And so that's the health responsibility message, that reason why I've been so passionate about getting it out, and I'm continuing to do that.
That's an amazing analogy. I absolutely love that we do only have this one vehicle, and that so many of us, we take better care of our car than we take care of our bodies. And I see this a lot. I actually use an analogy with the car as well. And I always say that, if you're if your car isn't working well, you don't just go to the mechanic and they tell you, oh, just put better gas in it. So this is my analogy to talk about people who are trying to they keep trying to look at food and like they just keep, maybe I need this macros or this, this balance of macros, or, take out this food or add this food in. It's like, we need to look under the hood sometimes. The mechanic is going to go in, look under the hood and do a full assessment of what's going on. Maybe there's, a lot of stressors on the body or the car, or maybe, there's something wrong with the machinery inside, like your digestive system is not working as it should. So we need to look at all those pieces and not just fix that one thing. And so I love your idea of, interrupting the cycle and really looking at, yes, there's definitely a piece to this where it's like a lot of people don't have access to the knowledge, because you really, going through the journey that I went through personally, and I'm sure you did too, you really have to go out of your way to learn new information that's going to help you. So what do you think, in terms of people who are maybe at a disadvantage due to their socioeconomic status, where they live, their education level, their income level? How do we better approach that responsibility with those types of populations?
So I'm gonna say it like this, because I'm sure you agree with me. And like, I don't think we lack information, right? There's no like lack of information in this world. Like, we have plenty of information. Actually, probably too much
Yeah,
at times,
probably.
or it becomes like overwhelming, right?
Yeah.
And because the reason why I say it is because I grew up in poverty. And again, I say my grandparents, they probably didn't have the education per se. But I think right now it's different just because we live in an informational age and we can find information. But I think I guess it's like, okay, is this information the right information?
Yeah.
That's why I say we have too much information, because we have some things out there that isn't the right information. Just plain isn't. And then some things are. But it's like, how can people be able to determine? So I think that is more of the question, where kind of I would say, how can people determine between like what to listen to, what not to listen to, because it can be a lot for someone to take in. And I say I'm a gut person, like I'm an intuitive person. And that's just my personality. I've done personality tests, and like it always comes back like logic is like it's not high on, in Dr. Ray's world. Like, I'm like very philosophical. That's me. Like, I love that. I love that piece. And like very intuitive. But when I talk about intuitive, like just when we hear something, like we can say, let's say, for instance, we hear truth, right? When we hear truth, it resonates and it hits different. Even we never heard it before, but it's like, man, like just something felt right about that. Like it just felt right. And so, and I like to go off of that. It's like when I presented with information and it just hits me in a way, it's like, that makes a lot of sense, right?
Yeah.
Like you just like, that makes a lot of sense. And it's like, okay, then let me do this. So I think that's the question we should be asking ourselves is, does it make sense to you based off of your current knowledge? And it's not saying that like, this is everything. Like, take this information, integrate it into who you are, but also be open to other information, because what happens is if we continue to be curious and continue to learn, then now we can take information from here, 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 and we can integrate this information, and now we can become an integrated human being, which I think that we are here to become, and become very diverse in that. And the more information we can take in, now we can be able to now, like, again, embody all of that and like have our own expression, essentially. Have our own expression of that. So that's what comes to mind when you ask that question for me.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And I think a lot of kind of what I'm hearing from you made me think about what I often recommend to my clients is that, you take in information and you try it on yourself. It's all about the self-experimentation. And that goes back to it being your responsibility. It's like, okay, if someone says, meat is bad. And for you, that makes sense. Try it in your body, see if that works for you. But,
Yeah.
chances are that's not going to work super well. And you'll start feeling something different. And that's when you said you don't want to get stuck with this one idea. You don't want to get stuck with this one trajectory. You don't want to hitch your identity to your diet, for example, because you have to stay open, because if something starts not feeling good anymore, you have to shift. And that's where you want to maybe try on something else, listen to someone else, work with a coach or a therapist or something like that, someone to help guide you.
This great advice. Absolutely love that. Just because I mean, that's the journey. That's the beauty of the journey is doing things, trying things, trial and error, because there's no experience like personal experience.
Right.
Like it's no experience like personal experience. So I think that's such great advice. Yeah.
Yeah. And I also tell my clients that there's no failing in this. You don't fail, you just learn. And so it's just a wonderful, it's like, okay, so I tried this, I tried to eat this way, and I kept, falling off the wagon or slipping up. It's like, what is that trying to tell you? Maybe it was too much for you. Maybe it wasn't, biologically appropriate. There's so many reasons that something might not work out. And it's like, we have to keep putting on that detective hat or that lab coat and going inside, because, we're the ones who know our bodies the best. And I think that a lot of times, you talked about intuition, that we tend to outsource to, someone on Instagram. And it's like, people will ask me like, well, how many macros, how many grams of protein should I eat? I'm like, I don't know, because I'm not in your body, like I just, for example, I had a late breakfast because I did a fasted workout. I went rollerblading, and then I came home, I had breakfast. And right before this interview, I'm like, I'm still hungry. So I ate a really early lunch, and that felt good for me. I can't put that on a meal plan for people, so it's about tuning in and knowing, like learning your vehicle, like what signs are your vehicle giving you, and not to like squash those symptoms, because the symptoms are the language of the body. And so I know you agree with this. You're a chiropractor. So I'd love to talk to you a little bit more about maybe what got you into chiropractic and how that maybe opened up your view on life and changed things for you.
Yeah. I love the symptoms as a kid. I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
It's a language. So what got me chiropractic is more so of, again, goes back to things I saw growing up. And what I saw is, again, there was this generational thing that was going on and on and on. And then like I asked questions like, okay, why I asked, as my grandparents raised me, I was like, okay, why you have to take all these prescription pills? Because I was a very curious kid. Like all kids are. They're always curious, right? And so I asked her, and then she's like, because I have this, I have these, I've been diagnosed with this, And then she's like, your great grandmother had this, your great grandfather had this, so it runs in our family. So when you get older, you're gonna have that. Yes, she had the best intentions, but I didn't take it for an answer, because it just didn't feel like, it goes back to the intuition thing. Like I couldn't take it to an answer, because it's like, for me, hearing it as a kid, now I don't want to become an adult, because you just telling me that I'm going to have diabetes, I'm going to have high blood pressure, I'm going to have high cholesterol, cancer, whatever it may be when I get older, because it runs in my family. Like, all right, it's
that
in
takes
our
your
genetics,
power
right?
away. Yeah.
It takes your power completely away, right?
Yes.
It's like, why even look forward to growing up, right? And being an adult. And that's where my head was. And so I've always, again, I always curious to that. I always like, I didn't take that answer. And then just kind of fast forward, I always kind of had this intuitive, like, okay, the body heals itself, right? Mm-hmm. I just knew that the body heals itself. Like, it was easy for me to like see that if I cut myself, I heal. If I get sick, like, I get better. And I noticed it as a kid, and it was actually 8 years old. I noticed it. And when fast forward to chiropractic, when chiropractic was introduced to my life, I'm like, man, this is exactly what I've been looking for my entire life. Like, this is how I want to serve the world, because the foundation of chiropractic is the acknowledgement that the body is self-healing, self-maintaining, and self-organizing.
That's amazing.
Right.
Yeah.
And so with that foundation, now it's like, okay, I can help people connect back to their natural selves, right? So that they can self-heal, self-organize, right? And self-maintain even better, right? Because I'm not doing the work. I can't heal them. I tell my patients all the time, Dr. Ray can't heal you, but I can remove the interference to allow your body to do exactly what it was designed to do. And that's what we do with the chiropractic adjustment. So it's such a beautiful thing. I absolutely love chiropractic. It is so much deeper than a profession. For me, it's a lifestyle. It literally is a lifestyle for me, and it's the way that I view life, because healing happens from inside out and not outside in. And that's the philosophy of chiropractic. And like that philosophy is my philosophy too, because anytime that you want to change yourself, you go inside.
Yeah.
And then the outside, it gets expressed outside, but it never happens from the outside in.
Yes.
Never happens from the outside in. Inside out is where it is.
That's amazing. That was actually a conversation I was having with my wife earlier today. And we were talking about just manifesting the life that you want. And we were talking about how it really starts from inside, and, aligning your attitude, your mentality, your vibrations with what you want to see. And it can be hard to do when you're focused on what is. You're focused on like, oh, I have this weight that I want to lose, or this pain, and your attention keeps going to it. And it's really hard to, come back to anything that feels positive if you're so bogged down by these symptoms. So, coming back to gratitude and starting with that inside out approach, it's so applicable for everything in terms of physical health, mental health, spiritual health.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing. So I love that.
Yep.
And I love the idea of, that the body is self-healing. And as a nutritional therapy practitioner, that's what our profession is also based on. And that I tell my clients the first time I talk to them, I'll say, like, if I cut my hand, what's going to happen? Immediately our bodies start healing. The second it happens, it just knows exactly what to do, goes right into action. And I tell my clients that inside of our bodies, the same exact process is constantly taking place. So our bodies are constantly trying to self-heal. And so many of us have so many issues. And this was me at one time. So I know firsthand that we think that our bodies are rebelling on us. We think, oh, my body hates me. I've said that so many times in my life, my body hates me. I want to lose weight, but I can't. My body obviously doesn't want to because it hates me. Really? Like, no, it's not true. So, I love the idea of thinking about, we need to remove these barriers to health. And, like you said, that something's blocking the healing. And so for you, it's aligning things so that the body can integrate and do what it does. And same thing with nutritional therapy, where we're removing those blocking factors from healing. We're removing the inflammation, the stress, the high amounts of sugar, the toxic vegetable oils, these things. And then we have to add in the good stuff, right? So whether that's, good nourishing food, or a loving community, or some sort of, stress reduction practice, a spiritual practice, it's that whole thing. That's why it's called holistic, right? Yeah. So people are like, what does holistic mean? It means like crunchy, right? Earthy, crunchy. It's like, no, it means you have to look at everything other, not just what's on the end of your fork. So, so I recently started getting chiropractic, and my chiropractor was saying that my atlas was off, which is where it's like the skull attaches to the first.
Yeah, right. The base of the skull is the first bone in the spine. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let you explain that. Perfect. So she said that when this is off, when it's out of alignment, it could keep your body stuck in a chronic sympathetic state. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I like to talk about sympathetic versus parasympathetic on this show, because reducing stress is so important for not only our blood sugar, but our entire health. So can you dive into that a little bit?
Yes. I'm gonna say it first of this is that we are in definitely a stress pandemic.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say. a sympathetic pandemic. And we live in such this stressful world, and we're talking about this sympathetic and this parasympathetic state. I always use car analogies, like, because I love cars. My dad, he's a mechanic, so I grew up
My
around
dad's a
cars.
mechanic too. And I know nothing about cars, and I use car analogies, and I feel like I should get a new analogy because I know nothing about them. So
Gotcha. But yeah, so I like to use like a sports car, right? So with sports cars, you can drive in your standard driving mode, and then also you have this sport mode where you can, if you want to get fast and acceleration, then you can do that. It's the same way I look at this parasympathetic and sympathetic, right? Parasympathetic is just our driving state where we supposed to be majority of the time. That's where we heal at. It's where we function at. That's where the body is supposed to, it's homeostasis, right? It's where it's supposed to be at. And then if we put it in sport mode, that is like, we want to go fast, right?
like
and
overdrive.
That's that sympathetic mode, is overdrive, right? We're going to go overdrive, and that's a sympathetic. And so the thing is, if we drive our car in sport mode all the time, I'm talking about hundreds of miles an hour all the time, then what do you think that's going to do to the system, to the car?
Yep.
Right? You're going to have a lot of wear and tear because the vehicle isn't meant to be driven like that. And the same for our bodies. Our body is not meant to be driven in a sympathetic state all the time. It's only meant to be driven in sympathetic state when there's some type of threat to our life. But most of the time, we have a lot of threats around us. A lot of threats from social media, maybe from our family, right? Maybe from our jobs, maybe from someone cutting us off. We have so many threats. That the brain perceives as a threat. Even if it's not a physical threat, the brain doesn't know the difference between reality and what we are perceiving in our head, or what we are even thinking about. So it could even be something that we're thinking about to even put us in a sympathetic state. So that's super important to understand, because it's important to understand how can we get out of this sympathetic dominant state and back into, I like to call it back into our natural selves, right? Back into our natural selves, the parasympathetic state where the body heals and functions where it should be. And so when we talk about Atlas, so there's a nerve that goes directly from the brain to your gut. It's called the vagus nerve. Yes. Right. So a vagus nerve, right? So literally a direct connection. And so vagus nerve actually is one of the nerves that is how we can stimulate that parasympathetic state immediately. Right. And so something that I actually noticed is that anytime that I go to touch a patient's neck, right, like I'm just about to palpate, just kind of feel around, their stomach growls every single time. Like I've just noticed it. Like I'm like interested. I just keep noticing, and the stomach growls, and it has to be because of that vagus nerve of like just that palpation of the neck, right? And so when we adjust the spine, especially when we adjust the cervical areas, that's going to stimulate the vagus nerve, and that's going to allow the person to be in their parasympathetic state. And so I've had several patients come out, like, especially after their first adjustment they ever had, they're like, "Doc, I went home and I slept for hours." They was like, "I was so tired." I was like, "Yes, I know you was, because you've been in a dominant sympathetic state probably for the majority of your life, and you were just in parasympathetic, and your body was able to fully calm down, start to heal, and start to function."
Wow. It's like allowing your body to go on vacation. It's like switching into vacation mode, you just feel good, you feel positive, you're like, "Oh, this is gonna be great." That's awesome. And what a great analogy. Again, another wonderful car analogy, but that is just what is going to happen to a car that is on sport mode, overdrive. It was not built for that. And our bodies, even though, we can be tough, we can take it, we can keep pushing our needs down and all these things, and just, drinking another cup of coffee and getting it all done. And it's like, is that the way that you want to be living your life, because what's going to happen down the road, right? And I have so many clients who say to me, well, I can't reduce my stress. Like, I'm a single mom. I have this, I have that. Like, there's a pandemic, there's all these things. But what I do tell them is that you have the capacity to take your body out of a sympathetic state on the regular. And this is something that I wish I could practice just as much as I preached, because I am this, a type A person. I love to, run on adrenaline kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So, this is not me being better than anyone out there. I'm in the same boat with everybody. And it's hard to do. It's hard to sit when you feel like you have so much to do. And, or it's like, this is a waste of time. These are thoughts that, regularly come to my head, but you can get your body out of this chronic sympathetic state by getting some chiropractic adjustments. That's one of them, and then doing things that stimulate the vagus nerve. And I've talked about this in other episodes, but it bears repeating. Things like gargling, humming, singing, breathing, mantras, and like chanting, those kind of things. Did I say like gargling with cold water on your face, hot and cold?
Yeah, gargling, and even chewing gum. I'm going to tell you that. Because when you chew gum, so these muscles here, it's the nerve that controls your chewing muscles are parasympathetic nerves. So you stimulate more parasympathetic when we start to chew gum. And I didn't know it as a kid. I used to chew gum as I played sports, but I didn't know why. But after learning about the parasympathetic and sympathetic, I'm like, oh, that makes sense. That helps me like calm down, relax. And I also think that's why we stress eat as well, because when we eat, we're chewing and we're trying to stimulate that parasympathetic state, and more of like it's a subconscious thing. Yeah. We're not aware of it, obviously, but it's a subconscious thing, and yeah, it makes us feel better.
Yeah. Wow. I never knew that. And I mean, I know that I tell my clients constantly, we need to chew our food more. That's something that we don't do. And chewing activates this, parasympathetic state. And so, hello, connections. Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. Yeah, such good nuggets of wisdom in here. That's awesome. So, when you say, I was looking at your website and you say that you describe yourself as a human potentialist, can you tell us a little bit about like being a doctor of human potential and what that looks like for you?
Yeah. So what comes up when we talk about potential, right? We talk about potential. The word itself, I mean, I love the word potential just because it's so infinite, right? It's so infinite. And I think it describes the human being as being infinite. And we are infinite beings. We are very powerful and intelligent beings, more than what we give ourselves credit for. And when we talk about being a human potentialist, it's more so of helping another individual be able to fully tap into who they are, right? The divine person that they are, that they would hold within. And so again, and that actually goes back to that, again, taking that responsibility for your health, for your life, and just really owning who you are, showing up and expressing who you are, and knowing your purpose, right? Knowing what's your contribution to humanity, because we're all here to contribute in some form of fashion. And so that's what comes up for me when I talk about being a human potentialist, is helping others see their own potential, like helping them see, because some people, they don't see it, right? And they don't think about being this infinite being of like just greatness. Yeah. Because we are like, we're really great. And so that's what comes up in human potentialist.
I love that. And so I saw you're also, you do kinetic life coaching, and I've always, I've heard the term like life coaching, but can you describe for us what it really is? Because I feel like some people could really benefit from this.
Yeah. So I was doing the kinetic coaching when I was in chiropractic school. So I kind of let it take a back seat when I actually started my practice. But the kinetic coaching with me, it's life coaching, is more so of trying to, again, helping people see their potential. Because for me, the reason why I'm so passionate about it is just the fact that I was in a state of like having blinders on per se, of like not knowing my own potential, and being limited by like my environment, right? Because what we see in our environment, it influences us really heavily. And if we don't see anything past, just like anything past our environment, we don't even know that it even exists. And so for me, being able to get outside of my environment, explore different cultures, explore different people, like it was the best thing that I could ever do in life. To be able to explore and be able to meet so many different people, because it gave me so many different perspectives. I was able to integrate that. And so that was the life coaching things about, is being able to, again, help people realize their own power, but also giving them the idea that, hey, like there are other things out there that you can be like going into or learning about. Like it's not just this.
Yeah.
Right. It's this whole world that we live in, this whole universe that we live in. So like, don't limit yourself. And so that's what about, how can we help people fully express who they are and really step into their authentic power? Because when you fully step into your authentic power, like you unapologetically express who you are.
Yeah.
Right. Because I think that's the easiest thing that we could ever do in life, is just be us. But for some reason, it seems like it's the hardest thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I've been learning a lot about boundaries and things like that, and asserting boundaries. It's a really hard thing to do, because we have all these, this conditioning and how we were raised, and these deep unconscious fears and things like that. And it just kind of reminds me of, would something like life coaching help people, let's say, who kind of have trouble doing it on their own, maybe holding themselves accountable, like sticking with something? What about people like that who struggle in those areas?
Yeah. So I think any type of coaching, and when it comes to me, I think it's all about accountability. Mm-hmm. It's all about knowing you have someone in your corner that actually cares, and that you can lean on too.
Yeah.
Because we are would say community. We, like, as human beings, like we need community. And so it's important for us to have, that's a need. It's important for us to have someone in our corner that loves us and actually wants to see us be better, right? Or get better. And so it's more so of helping them realize, right? So when we talk about coaching someone, it's like if you're a pitcher in the frame, like you can't see the pitcher. Mm-hmm. Right? It makes sense. Yeah. Someone said that, I forgot who said it, but it was awesome when I heard it, because you can't see the picture if you're in the frame. And so that's all what coaches are like healing facilitators. It's allowing you to see the picture, right? Mm-hmm. Because you're in the frame, like, but I'm looking at the picture, I'm seeing everything that you're doing, right? And based off of my experiences and knowledge, I can help you navigate your way, right, to a place that you want to be at. So it's more so helping them self-discover. That's what it comes up to, right? So it's not like, because they have it. I think we are all born with this infinite intelligence. Like, we have everything that we need. We don't need a podcast. We don't need a book, like nothing, right? I think we just need to be reminded of who we are and what we possess. And once we are reminded of that, then we start to express all these different amazing things that we have possessed the entire time, but they've just been covered up, I guess.
Yeah, I love that. And I think that I've kind of used this before. And I said that I'm, as a nutritional therapist, as your nutritionist or coach or whatever it is, that I'm simply just holding a mirror. So you can see. So, if you're in that frame, it's like your coach, your mentor is just holding up a mirror so you can just see more clearly. But it comes down to you doing the work. The coach isn't helping, but isn't going to do the work for you. And so again, it comes back to that the full circle here, taking responsibility for your own
right?
health.
And this may be crazy, but every time I post that, I get some negative feedback on that. Mm-hmm. And I get called, I think, ableism. I think that's the term they use. um, ableism. I get called that, and basically just saying that, what about the people who are born this way, or they can't help that they have this, or they were diagnosed with this, or like I get all these different exceptions, or I get all these what ifs, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but I still come back on the same exact thing. Your health is your responsibility. I don't care if your health is only 80%, but how about we get 100% of the 80%, right?
Mm-hmm.
How about we make sure we're doing everything that we possibly can, even though we may not be able to be at 100% compared to another human being, but we can maximize our 80%. We can maximize the 70% that we have. And I think that's the piece that people either consciously do it on purpose, like they just want to disagree. So maybe that, or they don't know, right? So I'm sure it's a little bit of both there. But I get that every time I post anything about like take responsibility for your health, every single time. And we've been conditioned to identify, right, with our diagnosis and like our illness, and like it becomes part of us. Mm-hmm. It's not just Dr. Ray anymore. It's Dr. Ray the diabetic. It's Dr. Ray the cancer survivor. Like it's that, right? And that's the identity of us. And if we lose that part of us, that now we're losing a part of us.
Yeah. And I think that, obviously there are going to be some exceptions if someone is completely dependent and, unable to do it.
Yeah.
But I think for everyone who's able, it's like, why are you looking for the exception when, in my opinion, you should be turning around and looking at yourself. Are you able to do what you're able to, right? We're not saying that you have to do everything on your own, because
it's not,
it's no, but it's your responsibility to connect with those people who can help you and to make the changes and to take action and to, commit to a healthy habit, to say no to things that make you feel like shit. This is our responsibility, because we only have this one vehicle. We only have this body. So it's about doing what you can in your power and what is in your realm and taking responsibility for that. We can't take responsibility for, accidents or, something, things that happen. We cannot control all of these things. But I always say I like to control what I can control, so that I'm best prepared for anything that I can't. So I think we're speaking the same language for sure.
Love it.
Yeah.
Beautifully said. Love it.
Yeah, to you too. Awesome. So is there any last message that you feel like you want to share that you didn't get a chance to say?
Let's see what comes up. Yeah, I do have a message. I think the message is stay curious for one, right? So if we stay curious, then that means that we are open to different opinions, different perspectives, new information. And it's only going to better us. Yeah. But it's when we close that door, it's when now we stop wanting to learn, stop wanting to see another person's perspective and their opinion, and their thought process. Like, I think that's the beauty of humanity, because we're all different, right? We're all different, right? We have different purposes. We have different experiences, different opinions, all of that. And because of that, I think that's why humanity evolves the way it does, because of the diversity, right? Because if we were all the same, it's like we live in this black and white movie or something. Like, I don't know, like it'd just be boring, right? It wouldn't be fun. I feel like we wouldn't progress as much, because we wouldn't have different opinions. We couldn't get creative. So I think the message just comes down to being curious, being open. Don't try to shut anybody out. Don't try to cancel anyone because their opinion is different, right? What they're saying is different. Even if you disagree with it, it's totally fine. Yeah. Right? We can agree to disagree and still love each other. Right. And so I think that's the message that I want to leave.
That's awesome. That's great. Well said. And I completely agree. You know, there'll be people who I follow on Instagram. I'm like, oh, I don't really agree with that, but I like a lot of other stuff they post, and I just scroll on by, you know. It's okay
Yeah.
to not agree. And sometimes we think we take it very personally. We can, you know, it's on our phone, it's in our face. It's like you're talking to me. And so, you know, we can kind of go down that rabbit hole or avoid it. But yeah,
Yeah.
we don't have to agree. We're not going to agree with every single thing. And, you know,
Yeah.
we're all out there doing our best. And I love that idea to stay open, stay curious, stay coachable, stay changeable. I talk about this a lot with my own journey when I did paleo, and it helped me heal so many things. And then I started getting sick on it. And I was like, well, let me just paleo harder because it used to work. That's not going to work. You have to change if you want to change, right? So that's the thing that we're talking about, is stay open and, you know, look outside your current scope for answers. So if you're, you know, eating a certain way and you're not doing well, you have to look outside of what you're doing to find more answers, because obviously you haven't found it in, you know, the box you're looking in. So
Yeah,
yeah.
100%.
Yep. Stay open and lean into some of these other modalities too, you know, like chiropractic can be a great tool. You know,
Yeah.
a lot of people aren't moving as much because, you know, they're not doing fitness and things because of quarantine, or they're afraid to get outside. It's like our bodies were not designed to sit still, and things will start breaking down, you know? So
Yes.
all of these things are so, so important. Being a community, I love it. So thanks so much for coming on. This was such a fun conversation. And where can people find you?
I only laugh.
Yeah.
So whenever
It,
this episode may come out, you guys can potentially find me on Instagram, Dr. Raymond Nichols 3.0 at this moment on this day, September 17th. So that may change. That number may go up. So Instagram, Dr. Raymond Nichols, just type it in if I'm there. I am working on creating my own online community. So these times of getting deleted have encouraged me to get creative. And so that's going to be the next move, is creating an online community where we can all connect and all pour into each other.
I love that. Yeah. And Dr. Ray's Instagram was deleted at 115,000 followers because he was just telling people to take responsibility for their own health. And apparently that's controversial. So yeah, but I support you. And I'm sorry that you lost all those followers. And I just hope that you can, you know, rise like a phoenix from the ashes. And having this chat, I have no doubt that you will. So everyone go and follow Dr. Ray and join your email list, right, on your website.
Yeah. Email list.
Awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
So you can stay in touch, join his community, support him and the wonderful work that he's doing in the world. So thanks so much for being here.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Yeah, sure.